There we go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the diabetes presentation tonight, Everything Diabetes. The topic today is diabetes and stress. My name is Linda Craven. I work for North Kansas City Hospital. I'm their community health coordinator. Shanna will be presenting in a little bit. I'm going to do the first part of the presentation and then I'll pass it over to Shanna. So I am also a certified diabetes educator and I'm the community health coordinator for North Kansas City Hospital. Okay. We are going to be recording this today, so if you guys want to stop your video, make sure your pictures don't show up if you would like. All right, so I decided to start off with, I thought this was a great picture. I found it on the internet. I think Shanna, my co-worker there, maybe would have snapped a picture of me at some time and threw it out there because that definitely looks like me when I'm dealing with stress. So when we start out talking about stress, it means different things to different people. And that's kind of my picture of stress. Okay, so when we're gonna start out by defining stress, kind of a catch-all definition for everybody. Stress is how your body reacts to certain situations, right? And how I react to stress is going to be different than how you react to stress. So we can see this little guy here he's looking like he's having a hard time just looking at that paperwork he's got to do. Stress can be positive or it can be negative. In this situation, he's experiencing probably some negative feelings about the stress he's having. However, in this situation, these graduates are definitely having a positive reaction to their stress. So they've worked really hard for something, probably even standing in line waiting to get that diploma and the degree. They were probably feeling stressed, but it prompted them to be able to celebrate something they've done really well in life. So we know that stress affects everybody differently, as we've said. It affects us emotionally, mentally, and physical. And this little guy here is having some trouble. I'm suspecting he might be hungry, so he might have, that's how it's affecting him physically. And mentally, since he's really unable to express what he needs or what he wants, you can tell that he's having a tough time. And emotionally is how he expresses his feelings because he can't really talk at this point. So just to review, emotionally, mentally, and physically, that's how stress affects us. And I found this little slide out on the internet as well. I thought it was really good. When we think about stress, we just think about, you know, it stresses me out. You don't really think about what all happens in your body when you're being stressed. And this picture, it really had a good demonstration of what all it affects. So first off, it affects your nervous system. The heart may beat faster and blood pressure rises to ready the body to fight the perceived threat. So whatever that threat might be, whether it's actually danger or you're feeling alarmed about your situation or you're in a, you know, you're trying to communicate with somebody and it's not going well, it can be all different kinds of things. It can be illnesses as well. So your musculoskeletal systems, when we get stressed out, our muscles tense up. And for some people, it can also trigger tension headaches. The respiratory system, our breathing quickens, which I think mine's probably doing right now. I'm a little anxious over this, but we're going to get through it. Cardiovascular system, your heart rate increases when you're stressed. And the endocrine system, it signals glands to the body to release one of the hormones called cortisone. It's released into the body. That is considered one of our stress hormones. And again, it's for the same purpose. We're sending out information and we're reacting a certain way so that our body can be prepared to handle the stress that we're dealt. The GI system, your eating habits may change with long-term stress. You may have that feeling of butterflies in your stomach may also occur. So we can see that stress just isn't really that simple. You can't just say it's one thing when it affects all these different parts of your body. Stress is not one size fits all. Stress is, we are able to handle stress due to the different experiences that we all have. We have different support systems and we all have different coping skills. So when we're thinking about what's going on in our lives, we want to try to make sure we have good coping skills to manage those stresses. We want to balance that out. One example might be your experience. For example, when my grandparents passed away, I had grown up, I've had no deaths in my family. And when I was out of high school when my first grandparent passed away. It was very stressful for me. I had no experience. I didn't know how to handle it because I'd never been there before. And I had a friend whose parent had actually passed away when she was 15. So when her grandparents passed away, she had a little more experience. She kind of dealt with death once, and she kind of figured out how it all goes. Support systems. I have great support systems. We hope that everyone can develop them if we don't have them. They are people that we contact when we're having stress that maybe we can talk things through. Maybe we can get a second opinion, or maybe we just need somebody to listen to us for a little bit. And then our coping skills is how we manage that stress, how we actually deal with it. And we see that there are many different coping skills in the world when it comes to stress. We've seen people that have road rage. That's one of their coping skills. Not a good one, but it is one. So it's just really important to think about when you're dealing with stress that when I'm stressed out over something, it's not going to affect somebody else the same way. So when we look at people and try to help them, or we're trying to work through things, we got to remember we all have different experiences, different support systems, and different coping skills. So I thought I would throw this out there. If you were to have, so some of you folks are probably here because you have pre-diabetes, you might have diabetes, or you may just be interested in the topic and want to learn more about diabetes because maybe it runs in your family. So I thought I would sit down for a few minutes. I took pen to paper and I decided I was going to write down all of the things that made me be stressful or was stressful to me when I thought about if somebody told me I had diabetes. And as you can see, I took about a minute to write this down. So the first thing is that I would think is I'm not giving up my sweets, not doing it. I don't want diabetes. I'm not happy with it. I'm not doing it. Of course, we know that when we have diabetes, it is probably something we need to try to manage so that we can live a healthy life going forward. So these are just some of the million things that I thought about in about a minute. I thought about testing. I thought about diet, medications, doctor's appointments. What am I going to do with work if I'm still working at that time? How do I get time off? And I got to make sure I'm eating routine meals when I have diabetes. If I'm not working and maybe I'm an older person, transportation might be an issue. I have to think about long-term complications, prevention, smoking, holiday dinners. That is a major concern for people around holiday time. Some people just simply don't go to holiday dinners because they are so stressed out about having diabetes and having to bypass all those delicious sweets and foods. So that's a big concern for people. And when you think about diabetes, you don't really think about those things right up front. Traveling, if you're on insulin, there's certain ways you have to store your insulin when you're traveling. We have to figure out exercise. We've got to figure out high blood sugar, low blood sugar. What does ketoacidosis mean? I've heard that word before, but what in the world does that mean? And what am I supposed to do about it? Sick day management, depression, how our mood affects us, whether we're motivated to do things or not. And not only does diabetes affect us personally, it does affect our family, our spouses, and our significant others. So for example, if I was married and my spouse did all the cooking, that's my dream world, but if my spouse did all my cooking and I suddenly developed diabetes, is your spouse willing to make changes for you to be healthy? So at that point, that person, your spouse, may want to go and also learn a lot about diabetes and how to cook and help take care of you. Together, you guys can have a healthier life together. Other diagnosis. How does diabetes affect my other diagnosis that I have? So you can see there that diabetes in itself can be very, very stressful. In this situation, it's a consequence. What I'm describing here can be a consequence. The stress can be a consequence of diabetes. Past this one, that was too stressful. So how does stress affect diabetes in our lives? So first off, it does affect your lifestyle choices. It affects your hormones in your body and your immune system. We're going to talk just briefly about each one of these. So, stress and your lifestyle choices. So when we're thinking about diabetes, we have to think about what we're going to do as far as nutrition, activity, our medications, socialization, all of these things listed on the slide. So you're going to have to decide whether you want to try to follow your diet as recommended, maybe limit your carbs, maybe watch what you're eating and drinking, stay away from Pepsi every day, which I love. It would be very hard on me to have diabetes. But nutrition-wise, you have to make a conscious choice about what you're going to do as far as managing your health care. And there's so very much to learn that stress can affect all of these things. One example might be if you've learned a little bit about diabetes, you're doing really well, you've got your blood sugar under control, you're exercising every day, taking your medications, and say perhaps you have a family member that becomes sick that you have to help take care of. For example, maybe an elderly parent. So now all of a sudden you have to be at your parents' house trying to help manage things. You missed lunch because you had to run them to a doctor's appointment. And suddenly that stress is starting to build up and your health and your diabetes isn't your primary concern anymore. You've got other things interfering. So it can affect whether or not you follow through with routine meals, whether you follow through with good choices for your meals. If you're in a hurry and rush and you're trying to do all these things, take care of your life and help your parents as well, it could be that maybe you're skipping meals, maybe you're going through drive-throughs for meals, and those meals just aren't as healthy as what you can cook at home, and they're not planned meals. If you plan ahead, you can do a lot better with your nutrition and actually all of these things. Activity-wise, again, you might be too busy. You might feel like you're too busy to actually exercise, so you start skipping exercise. And we know that exercise is a great method to help lower your blood sugar. Once you start skipping those, you might see your blood sugar start to creep up a little bit. And as far as medications, sometimes when we get very, very stressed out, we just don't feel like we can follow the plan anymore. So we get off plan A and there is no plan B. So we just kind of flounder. We kind of do what we have to do. We eat when we're hungry. We might forget our medications. We may start staying at home and not going out and having any kind of social life. And we might start feeling a little depressed. Stress can do all these things to us. It may also interfere in our ability to take care of ourselves. Maybe we were going out and doing things, taking care of our meals, our activity, we were taking our medicine as recommended, but now suddenly we're at home, we're not feeling good, there's too much to do, and we're just strictly overwhelmed. And we'll see that people start to fall off the wagon a little bit when we get really overwhelmed with stress. It also affects the compliance in what you do, as far as I said about nutrition, activity, and medications. It can make you sleep more or sleep less. You may cope with this stress by eating more or eating less. And so really, when we're talking about stress and lifestyle choices, we're trying to figure out what kind of coping skills is going to work for us best. That's where we need to be looking. So this kind of describes the hormone response that happens. And this is, of course, out of our control, right? We have stress and our body does this automatically. We don't even know that it's doing it. So first off, your body senses stress. It will start to release hormones. The most common one is probably cortisol that we know. That's called the stress hormone. And they attribute that a lot to women when they hit middle age, menopause. They get these stress hormones and then they get some added weight in their belly area. However, there are other hormones as well that's released, such as adrenaline, glucagon, catecholamines, and growth hormones are just a few of them. So when these hormones are released, your body reacts in certain ways to each different hormone. One of the things that happens, it starts to increase our glucose production. So now suddenly we have a lot of glucose in our bloodstream, right? Normally when your glucose goes up, it triggers your body to release insulin. And then the insulin helps move the glucose in the blood from the bloodstream into the cells where we use that for energy. And that is really the normal process. In this situation, we have a bunch of different hormones being released. Our glucose goes up, And for whatever reason, it impairs the glucose uptake in the tissue. So there's some kind of interruption where the glucose is not moving from the blood into the cells. So our glucose remains high. It also gives us this surge of glucose. Our body does that when we have sudden stress or even long-term stress. And it puts us in a fight or flight mode. So for example, if you're driving down the road, moving along, and suddenly a child or an animal or something runs out in front of you, you slam on the brakes and you put your hand to your chest and you go, ah. When you do that, your body is sensing that dramatic stress that's suddenly taken place, and it just dumped you a whole bunch of glucose. Your reaction after that is often a response to that added glucose, because the glucose gives you that sudden energy to slam on your brakes and stop, and take a minute. It will take you a minute to recover from that. But when you feel that sudden stress and it's that feeling, oh my gosh, your body has released you some glucose. Another example might be if you're in the woods, you're walking along peacefully and you encounter a bear. So now you're looking at an 8-foot bear, he's standing up and he's growling at you. Your body will suddenly release you a whole bunch of glucose. And at that point, you have to decide if you're going to fight. So you've got some energy to fight, probably not going to win against that bear. So you might turn and run. And that extra energy is coming from that sudden release of glucose in your body. Some other things that these hormones do, they stop insulin producing cells from working properly. So now your glucose is elevated, as I said earlier, but you're not getting the correct amount of insulin to move all that glucose into the cells. So as a result of not having enough insulin, your glucose is going to build up in your bloodstream and going to cause you to have high blood sugars. And then it also, the hormones also invoke an inflammatory response. And we're going to talk just briefly about this. There's a pretty good picture in here that kind of helps explain this. So we see here in this picture at the top, we see the word stress. And here it shows 4 of the hormones that are released when you encounter stress. And this kind of explains what I told you in the slide before. The glucose production goes up because it senses stress. It causes high blood sugar or hyperglycemia. The thing we didn't talk about too much in the slide is the inflammatory response. So when you have stress, your body releases inflammatory hormones or cells such as neutrophils and monocytes, are a couple of them. Those two together release something called cytokines. And cytokines affects the body's ability to react to the elevated glucose, and it affects the insulin. So we can see on the left, the thing that the insulin does for us, it decreases the inflammation and it increases the cell function. So when you have insulin, we know that glucose moves much easier from the bloodstream into the cells. The insulin acts like a key to the cell. It has to be there to open it in order for the glucose to move into the cell. So when we see the cytokines, that means the inflammatory process is elevating, then the cell starts to not function as well. And it kind of turns into a bad cycle. Because of the stress and we're not getting the glucose into the cells, our cells thinks that we're starving to death, so it triggers the body to release more glucose. So more glucose is released, but the insulin isn't working properly. So over time, the glucose will just continue to elevate. So that's kind of how our body reacts to stress when we have diabetes. I threw these 2 in just briefly to kind of run through them really quickly. Type 1 diabetes, we know, is an autoimmune disorder or disease. The body immune system starts reacting and it kills its insulin-producing cells. So we have cells called beta cells that are located in the pancreas. When we have type 1 diabetes, for whatever reason, our body attacks those beta cells and it destroys them, so we're not able to make our own insulin. So with type 1 diabetes, you will have to take insulin to live long term. It's required. There's no pills at this point that treat type 1 diabetes. The causal factors to type 1 diabetes isn't really understood that well. They do believe that genetics and environmental triggers do play a role in that. So some of that trigger, they believe, might be associated with stress and just the inflammatory process we just talked about. And since I talked about type 1 briefly, I'm going to throw in type 2. There is a link between insulin resistance to high cytokines. And remember, those were the proteins that were released in the inflammatory response. So there is some kind of association there. The immune system response of inflammation, actually, to make that next bullet point there easy, basically when our immune system is triggered, it leads to fatty acids being released into the blood, and it elevates our cholesterol. And cholesterol we want to watch our cholesterol when we have diabetes, because together the two increases your risk for heart disease, heart attacks, and strokes. So now I'm going to just talk briefly about identifying stress. How do we know if we're stressed? I mean, I know pretty well because I get real excited and my muscles get tense, and I could just tell when I get really, really, really nervous. So our muscles do get tense. Often it's in the lower back, the neck, the jaws, and the shoulders. Sometimes you can also see it in people's faces as well. You may get a headache or a stomach ache. You may be irritable with your family, coworkers, and friends, and you may just feel worn out and drained. Those can be all symptoms that you're having some stress. When we talk about stress, I'm going to talk just briefly about some things we need to do when we know that we're under immense stress. You want to check your glucose regularly. If you're somebody that has been checking it routinely. Pre-diabetes, sometimes people don't check their glucoses, and maybe that's not necessary. That would be up to your doctor to determine. But we want to check if you're on insulin or your medications where you are routinely checking it. When you're feeling stressed, it can make your blood sugar go up, as just we talked about. So check your glucose routinely, keep a log, and document how you're feeling when you check that glucose. So if you're checking your glucose and for no reason you feel like it's elevated, really look at how you're feeling. Are you feeling stressed? Have you had a hectic day at work? Are you having financial problems, personal problems, those kind of things? And if you can identify stress, then we can start figuring out how to work on it a little bit. And look for patterns. Diabetes is very big on patterns, whether you're looking for patterns in how you're feeling or patterns about how your glucose is running. Sometimes we write down our foods to also look for patterns. Stress can be a contributing factor, as we said before. You might have stress because you have diabetes, but we also know that when we're stressed and it triggers the immune response and it causes all that glucose to get stuck in your bloodstream because our insulin and our glucose isn't working properly, it can be a consequence as well. It can also affect us again emotionally, mentally, and physically. And to summarize it, it can also affect our lifestyle choices. It affects our hormones, which we can't really change, and our immune system, which we can't really change. But we can change our lifestyle choices, and we can work harder at trying to manage our stress so that we're making good choices down the road. Log your blood sugars and your feelings and look for patterns. And always, always contact your physician or your doctor with any symptoms of depression or suicidal thoughts. I kind of wanted to throw that in at the end. Diabetes is we see a lot of depression with diabetes, and it's mainly because it's such a stressful disease, and it's so many different things we have to manage all at the same time while we're managing our own life. So again, if you have any symptoms of depression or ideas about suicidal thoughts, please contact your physician, and they will help you manage that. And my final slide, stress is simply dessert spelled backwards. So when we think about it, we might think about, having a little fun with it as well. How we manage it is going to be how we are able to go forward and have a healthy lifestyle. So I'll open it up briefly to questions for me, or we can save that at the end. So if anybody has any questions, you can hit the chat button and type me in a question. I'll be happy to answer it. And we'll give that just a few minutes if I don't have any immediate questions, we'll move on, and Shanna's going to give you some good tips on further instruction and direction on how to manage stress.
Linda, that was a whole bunch of good information.
I know, I felt like there was a lot of stuff there, and I tried to make it as simple as I can. So anybody that has questions, you're very welcome to type them in. If I don't get to them right away, or I don't know the answer, I'll certainly find out and get back to you.
So while you guys are thinking up your questions, I am going to go ahead and get my PowerPoint up, okay? All right, guys, I'm almost there. Linda, did you see any questions pop up?
I didn't see any. So they're welcome to send them to me after the fact or at the end of your presentation, Shanna. Either way is fine by me.
Okay. Let me just make sure. I want to make sure that you guys are seeing the correct screen real quick. Yep, perfect. You are. All right. So I am going to take a few minutes to talk a little bit more. Linda, you did, like I said, an absolutely amazing job covering that information. And I think it was a really good start. So we are going to take just a little bit, like I said, to kind of go a little bit more and try to find some ways that we can de-stress. So my name is Shanna. I am the coordinator of community education. I am so excited to be able to talk to you guys tonight because typically I'm just like the wizard behind the curtain. So I'm really excited to be able to talk to you a little bit about me. I am a mother, I am a wife, a daughter, an employee, a friend, a volunteer, and a coach. So there's a whole lot going on in my life, and at any given moment, I can be pulled in multiple directions, and none of that is a negative. There are some times when I need a few different coping skills, and I need to work some things out. So for stress, one of the first things that you need to do is learn what your signs of stress are. So different people have different signs and nobody is the same. So you can't ask your friend or your siblings, you can't ask anybody, what are your signs of stress? Because they're going to be different than yours. So my body will send me loud signals, and it's typically not until it's too late and I'm really, really stressed. So I've had to really work on watching my signals and trying to figure out, okay, is this hurting because an activity that I did, or is it hurting because I'm stressed? So one of my signs is my back hurts, and actually it's a knot that I get right underneath my shoulder blade. And I have heard that some other people get this too. So this may be you as well. So I always thought that there was nothing I could do about that was just where I held my stress. And then I started figuring out how tight my neck was. And a wonderful friend of mine pointed out the fact that it's kind of all connected. So now whenever I start seeing my neck get a little bit tighter, you didn't hear that, but it actually just popped. I notice, okay, if I just stretch it and if I move it around and I'm diligent about stretching it, guess what? My back really doesn't hurt that bad. So it has taken me many, many years to figure that out about my body. You can get little signals or you can get big signals. You just have to pay attention to your body because it is sending you a signal that you're stressed. And I'm one of those bulldogs. So when I get stressed, I am just going to push my way right through that. I am not going to stop to look around. I'm just going to get through it. Not everybody is like that. So pay attention to your signals and how you're handling the stress. Step 2 is learn how to manage it. So we have figured out that we're stressed. Now, what are we going to do about it? Is there something different that we need to change? Pay attention to stress, learn how to manage it. We're going to go over some management tools. Step number 3, practice makes perfect. So we are going to go over some things today that if you have tried it in the past, try it again, quite possibly. So try to give it a few times, maybe a handful of times. If it's not working for you after a handful of times, see if something else works. I typically like to say, give it 2 weeks. If one of the things that we go over doesn't work and after 2 weeks you've tried and tried, give up on that. Try another thing, another tool. But no matter what, you have to practice it for it to work. It's kind of like riding a bike. You didn't just jump on that bike and take off. Okay. You have to practice it. So here is one of our first tools. Keep a positive attitude. So this sounds really, really easy. It's not. I'm sure you've witnessed that. The truth is that when we're stressed, it can be very, very easy to do the worst case scenario thinking. We start to expect and plan for the absolute worst. This only increases our stress. And then we start getting into a spiral where we worry more and we stress more. So breaking out of that cycle with some gratitude can work. Sometimes it can be hard to find something to be thankful for, but find at least one thing, then try to find another. Write those down and focus on those. Before long, you will be able to add more things to your gratitude list. And the funny thing is, when you start focusing on the things that you're grateful for, you will stop focusing so much on the things that you're worried about. And if you guys have pen and paper with you, maybe write down some of these that you think might work for you so that you can remember to give it a try next time you're stressed, okay? So the next thing in our toolbox is be kind to yourself. Most of us are our own worst enemies. We beat ourselves up when something doesn't go right. We try to figure out how we could have done better, how we could have let it fail, how we could have messed up. Be kind to yourself. I know there's a whole bunch of talk about being kind to everyone around you, but sometimes we've got to be kind to ourselves too. So give yourself a break. You can write down your goals. And if you don't achieve that goal, that's okay. Guess what? You have some more time. Okay. You can give it another shot. Also, whenever you're writing down your goals, make sure that you think that they're achievable. If you don't think that goal is achievable, do not set yourself up to fail. Change your goal to be a little bit more achievable. Okay. If nothing feels better than achieving your goals that you write down, it is an amazing feeling. I think a lot of times we forget about setting goals and achieving them because we're just too much in the mix of daily life. Okay. So like a little goal could simply be, I will eat 2 vegetables a day for 4 days this week. Okay. Some of you, that might not be a little goal. For me, that is a little goal. I eat a lot of veggies. So if I thought I could achieve that, that's a great goal. If I thought that there's no way I could achieve it, I just change it to be 1 veggie a day for 4 days this week. And then once I achieve that goal continuously, I change it. Maybe I move it up to 2. But give yourself a break. If you get sidetracked and it doesn't work out, give yourself a break. So like I said, forgive your sidetracks. There's a whole bunch of things in life that can take us and knock us right off our rails. We have to acknowledge, okay, I got knocked off the rails, and get right back on the rails. Don't beat yourself up to the point of not getting back on the rails. That's very, very important. So refocus and revise goals as needed. Like I said, if you think that goal isn't achievable, don't set it in the beginning. All right. Revise it so that it is achievable. And sometimes if we think, okay, well, I'm not having a trouble eating veggies like I thought, so I am having a really hard time with the crackers and cheese though. Like I love that snack. So maybe I'll set my goal to be not to have that so often. Like maybe if I know that I'm having that 5 days a week, maybe I'll reduce that to 3, just revise your goal and refocus it if you find that that's what you need to do. Another tool is to talk to someone. So don't underestimate the power of this. Sometimes when we are going through something, it's easier to just power through it. We may feel that people won't understand what we're going through. We may feel like we don't want to be a burden. We may feel that nobody cares. But don't underestimate the power of just talking to somebody. We all have different people in our lives that we can share different things with. So if you are concerned, I as Linda said, holiday dinners are a big stressor. And maybe we don't go because we don't think people will understand, or because it's just too much. Well, talking to your family about that may or may not be helpful. Just something to consider, okay? Finding someone to just talk to and say, wow, I can't believe I did this. Or, wow, I can't believe I did this. All right? Share the wins as well. Find somebody. Practice self-care. We have a tendency to focus on everybody around us and give and give and give. It is okay to put ourselves first. All right. If you can't fill yourself up and do what you need for you, you cannot give to others. So it's not selfish to put yourself first. It's just self-care. Exercise. This is probably my favorite topic. So exercise do a whole bunch of good stuff for us. I know some people think the word exercise is a dirty word. So, maybe we just call it movement, whatever you want to call it. If you feel like when I say exercise, you get chills down your back and you want to stop listening to me, then call it something different. So don't discount what this can do for your stress levels. So your body will your body will release endorphins when you exercise. And endorphins are brain chemicals that help improve your mood while also blocking pain signals. So that's a 2-for-1 there. Exercise has another pain reducing effect. It strengthens your muscles, guys, and it helps prevent re-injury and further pain. So when your muscles are stronger, your joints feel better too. Plus, exercise can help keep your weight off and reduce heart disease risk. It also helps you control your blood sugar levels. So if you start small, that's great. If you already have a routine going on, perfect, keep it going. So if you're starting small, maybe a 10-minute walk could help. Maybe set a goal of trying that 4 days a week. Whatever, again, you think is achievable, because this is for you. So make sure that you set your own goals and you decide what you can do. So everyone is different, and you definitely need to talk to your doctor first. If you have a heart condition, or if your doctor has told you something about your exercise, maybe you have neuropathy, talk to your doctor first. Try to figure out what you feel is going to be safe and he feels is going to be safe, and start there. I would not jump straight into an exercise routine without consulting your doctor. Meal planning. This is my second favorite topic. So, like I mentioned, I have a few things going on in my life. So meal planning really, really helps me. Now, I do not meal plan every meal of my day. I only meal plan dinners, because when you think about it, most meals of your day, you've got something that you can grab and take with you, or it's readily available. Dinners are the ones where we typically run around crazy and we eat just whatever we can pick up, and maybe it's McDonald's, and then we typically don't feel great after that. So I definitely recommend meal planning. And I also never ever hear, hey, what's for dinner? And if some of you just cringed, you can understand the beauty in that. I also don't hear, no, I don't want that. I don't know. Where do you want to go eat? I don't know. Where do you want to go eat? And then for 20 minutes, you sit in the vehicle trying to figure out where you're going to go eat, because guess what? It's late and you just want to get fed. Meal planning takes care of that too. It's amazing. So here are some tips for meal planning. Write down your activities first. This will help you pinpoint meals that might be difficult to plan for. And those are the meals that you want to plan for, definitely. So if you don't want to plan for dinners throughout every night of the week, that's okay. Just start with the dinners that you know you're going to have a hard time making because you have another activity. So try to get a serving of vegetables at every meal. I know I've talked about vegetables a lot. They're amazing for you. Pre-cook and prepare your vegetables or meat up to 3 days before you eat it. So you can chop up your veggies beforehand. You can clean them beforehand. If you're going to have ground turkey, you can grind it beforehand. You can brown it all up beforehand. You can even take and brown some up and throw them in individual bags for like multiple meals and throw it in the freezer. And then all you have to do is thaw it out, warm it up, add your seasoning, do whatever you're going to do with it and eat it. That really, really takes and cuts down on the time to make a meal. So stick with the plan. Listen, I know sometimes we don't like having structure. I get that. Stick with the plan. If you decide that you don't want fish on Tuesday and you'd rather have that on Thursday, and you know what, you want to go ahead and eat chicken on Tuesday instead, that's fine. You can move your days around. But the key is that you stick to those meals, because if you've already planned them and you've already purchased the materials, we don't want them to go to waste. So allow for an eat out night if that's what you normally do. I am not telling you that if you eat out every single night of the week, you can't ever eat out again. I am telling you that maybe you planned for 2 nights a week to eat at home. Plan those meals and then see how that goes. Little changes, guys. We don't want anything big and drastic because that's whenever the change is really, really hard. Try new foods. So we are having mahi-mahi tonight. I already got a yuck out of my husband, but the kids are kind of excited about it. We are not fish eaters, but I decided that once a week we needed to check out a new fish. We have tried several different types of fish now, and I can't say that we've picked out a favorite one. Maybe we will tonight. We will see. But the important thing is that as a family, we're trying new things. We're not just sticking to the same old meals. Try to minimize your processed food. So when I tell you to meal plan for a dinner, that isn't saying Swanson and Swanson's banquet dinners or anything like that. Try to make a home cooked meal. If there are things that you need to do that are processed and that you're putting in the meal, that's okay, but try to minimize though. Try to figure out if there's something else that you can use instead of that processed food, because the cleaner that we can eat, the better it is for our body. Okay, meditation and breathing. So this is, I think, probably the most common stress reducer that people talk about and that you hear about. And it works. I'm not going to discount that at all. It works. So what is meditation? Meditation is basically allowing your breath and your mind to calm down and focus on only one thing. So it can also be maybe something different, like a body scan, but meditation typically has like a mantra. If there's something that you typically like to hear that you feel like maybe you don't hear enough, say mine might be, I am enough. Okay. So then I would find a comfortable place where I'm not going to get interrupted. Set a timer, because I find that when we start to meditate, the first question is, how long have I been doing this? Am I done? So set a timer so that if you only want to meditate for a minute, Set a timer for a minute, and then you don't have to check the time. Focus on your breathing. And then for the mantra, you would just repeat that over and over in your head, or maybe out loud if you want to. There is a whole bunch of different mantras that you can have. People like to use maybe a sound instead. I think it would be great if you're looking for meditation to take a meditation class and try to figure out which one's the best for you. Okay. So remember, you have to practice, 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 practice. Meditation is not something that comes easy necessarily. We have a whole bunch going on in our head, and it's really easy for those monkeys to start chattering and for you to get lost in your thought. Like, I'm trying to think, I am enough. I am enough. Did I turn the oven on? I am enough. Whew. How long has it been? I am enough. I am enough. Did I call my mom? I am enough. See what I mean? So there's lots of little thoughts that like to creep in. Practice and practice and practice helps with that. So meditation can also help with the tension and tightness, and you can help that to kind of just seep away. Let's talk about some deep breathing, and then I'm going to do a body scan with you guys just real quick, okay? So if you would like this body scan, you can email me afterwards, or you can contact the hospital and I can send it to you because it's pretty phenomenal. So deep breathing is also a way to relax. There are lots of different ways to do deep breathing. There are just a couple that I'm going to go over with you tonight. And when I said there's a lot, there are a lot of different techniques for deep breathing. So one of the simplest ones is to count your breath. So again, you would find a comfortable position. You would find a place where nobody is going to come in and bother you or ask for your attention. Set a timer so that you don't have to wonder how long it's been. And most off so that you don't have to worry that you went over the time that you allotted yourself. And then you can take and breathe in through your nose. Let's do 5 seconds. Start with 5. I think that's a good number for you. So you would breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then purse your lips together and breathe out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the goal is to take the air all the way in and even down your diaphragm into your belly. Set up nice and straight and breathe in. And then you would breathe out, pushing all of that air out. So that is just one example of deep breathing. That's a pretty common one. Another one that somebody just showed me is to reverse it. Typically, when we talk about deep breathing, we talk about breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Try breathing in through your mouth and out through your nose. It's different. It makes you think a little bit more. And when we focus on things, those monkeys don't come in and chatter as much. So for the body scan, let's go ahead and get comfortable real quick. Like I said, I'm not going to do this for very long, okay? And actually, let me click next slide here. So I think it's important that we do the body scan and that we practice it just a little bit because it can really help you check in on your body, which is why it's called a body scan. And it can help you figure out what's really going on. Like sometimes my knee hurts, but it's not really my knee, it's my hip. And my hip hurts because another muscle is tight. So doing a body scan and refocusing and figuring out, okay, what is going on can not only help you fix things, it can help you to de-stress as well, okay? So go ahead and settle into your position. You may choose to close your eyes or you may choose to leave them open. That is absolutely your call. I want you to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. One more breath in, filling your lungs and allowing your belly to rise with air. One more breath out. Continue your breathing. I want you to bring your attention to your feet. Let's start with your toes. How are they feeling? Are they warm, cold, or simply just there? On your next breath, imagine filling your body down to your toes with air. Breathe out. Moving to your feet, take a moment to check in with them. Are there any aches or pains? Move up your body to your legs and knees. Stop to appreciate your muscles and check in with them. With your next breath, fill your body down to your knees with air. And breathe out. You may have noticed tight muscles in your legs. Take a breath of fresh air. As you exhale, imagine the tension from your muscles being released and pulled out of your body with air. Breathe in. Breathe out. Move up your body to your hips, thighs, and buttocks. What are you feeling or noticing about this area? Is there more tension, or are they completely relaxed? Breathe in fresh air. Breathe out tension and stress. One more time. Breathe in fresh air. And out tension and stress. Take a few moments and a few breaths to just relax and appreciate your muscles and appreciate your body. Give thanks to your joints and give thanks to your mind. When you are ready, start wiggling your toes to wake them up. Go ahead and wiggle those fingers too. And if you have closed your eyes, go ahead and open your eyes. So I hope you feel a little bit different just with that brief body scan. We actually can go all the way up the body and down to the fingers with that, just checking in with it and figuring out what's going on with it. Hopefully your legs and your knees feel a little bit different too. If, like I said, you want a copy of that body scan, let me know and I can get it to you. So let's go on to our next stretch. I know after that, you guys are probably just ready to, take a nap, but we have a couple of more tools to go over. So the next one is stretch. So as I had mentioned, this one is really important to me. So you can do the neck swing. Let's see if my headset stays on here. And the neck swing is where you just roll your head, swing it side to side. If you're doing this right now, you might realize, ouch, that hurts. All the more reason to unstiffen up that neck. The head tilts are my favorite, and that's where you just take, and you can take your hand and just give it a little pull. And then you can pull to the other side. Now, I would say that you probably need to hold these for 30 seconds each. Okay, guys? If you find that your head does not want to go, don't force it. Only go as far as it is willing to go. You can also take and tilt down and give a little bit of pressure from behind. Okay. And then we can look up some too. Those feel amazing, especially when you're under some stress. So you have the overhead stretch and reach. So we just stretch our hands up and then reach to the side. You can do all of these from a chair. I think you guys are seeing that. So absolutely all of these can be done from a chair. So if you're at work, you don't have to look awkward. Just act like you're yawning and stretching, okay? And then the other side. You can also do it forward like a reach, okay? The spinal twist. I know you've all done this before. You just haven't called it a spinal twist. So you just take and twist in your back. Now, if your doctor has told you not to twist your back like this, don't twist your back, okay? So this can be a stretch for you. And then you would take and do the other side. The cat cow, you can do that sitting in a chair. You would just move a little bit closer to the edge and you'd stick your stomach and chest out and your head would come back. And so the theory is to get your back to look like this, okay? And then try to make it look like an angry cat where you roll vertebrae by vertebrae, okay? And your chin comes tucking down. That's a really good stretch for your back as well. The sideward leans is where you have your hands down to your side. And if you have your legs crossed, maybe don't cross them, okay? So your hands are down to the side and you just reach down your chair. That's your side leans. The seated figure four, that one's quite interesting. So again, some of you may not like this one because you can't necessarily bend your knees like this, and that's okay. So the seated figure four is where you take and you cross your legs well, I'm just going to say it like a male. Okay. So your ankle comes up onto your knee. Don't cross them all ladylike where your knees are touching. Your ankle is on your knee. And then if your knee is up here in your chest, you are definitely tight. And then you would just take and kind of push down a little bit on your knee. Now, if you can't cross your legs because your knees won't let you, no big deal. You can cross at the ankle and try it there. So those are just a few stretches that you can do from your chair when you're feeling that you're stressed. Okay, I really hope this works. So some people really like to use funny videos as a de-stressor. So I decided to put a couple of clips of funny videos in here. I know we're running short on time. So let me see if it works. It's not working, and that's okay. Okay, so look on YouTube, find your funny videos and watch them. There's actually a really funny one of somebody bouncing off of a fitness ball. Not so funny because something gets broke, but isn't that what tends to make us laugh anyways? So find a funny video. Laughter is the best remedy for any sort of stress, okay? I hope some of those tools can really be useful to you and that you're going to give them a shot. And that's all that we have. So I definitely want to open that up for some questions if you have any questions. You guys can put that in the Q&A and you can also put it in the chat, okay? Either one is good. Linda, did you have anything else that you want to share? Linda, you're muted.
I am unmuting. Hello. Yeah, that was amazing. You did a great job explaining that. I love it. So many options that we can use to try to de-stress. Really great, really great. I loved it. I don't really have anything to add.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I don't see anybody chatting with us or asking us questions. So that must mean that we did a great job.
I think so. We did. I'm not stressed at all. Are you?
You know, the body scan, even as I'm saying it, the body scan really mellows me out. And so that's another thing I wanted to say, guys, is it can be hard to do a body scan while reading, because the theory is that you're not focusing on anything but thoughts, right? So you can pre-record that. You can find one that you like to listen to. You can have somebody, like if you have the most gorgeous voice ever for a friend, have them read it for you, okay? Because then you can just play that back and listen to it while you're doing it. So, okay. Well, guys, I think we're going to sign off and let you get on with your evening. We appreciate you joining us this evening. All right. A copy of this will be placed on YouTube, and I will be sending out the link for that so that you can watch it again or share it if you'd like. So, Linda, I think that's it.
Thank you, Shanna.
All right. Bye, guys.